Welcome back to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. Today's Pokemon Team Creation Series request comes from myself. As I go through the list, I do have my own set of ideas and characters I want to do, and it was my turn. So I decided to go with, since me and my girlfriend actually did really start to get into the series, Zeus from Ragnarok. I've already done Jack the Ripper. And now I figure let's just start from the beginning and roll our way back. Technically, the beginning would be Thor or Lubu, but we'll do Zeus. Zeus in that series is the leader of the pantheon of the Greek gods, as well as leader of kind of all the gods. He is considered the strongest of the gods. Although, as we do see in some of the other fights, that is contestable to some degree. It's debatable whether or not Buddha would beat him in a fight. Other gods such as, or other deity-esque figures like Beelzebub are arguably have an ability that could theoretically beat him. So it is a little debatable, it's not contested. It's just debatable when we kind of see how the fights play out. Who actually is the strongest god? But it's believed to be Zeus, and Zeus is actually a little difficult. There are some Mon on this list that were easy, others not so much. Let's get down to it. So right out the gate, when you're talking about the head of the god of gods, all that, well, you've got to have the god of Pokemon. Arceus is probably his main Mon. This makes the most sense. A, it looks a lot like him, but the white robe and the white look. But B, you can also change his type to match something more akin to Zeus. His more maybe malevolent nature and love of battle could go towards dark. However, because he is predominantly a melee fighter, I went with a fighting plate, or a fist plate, whatever the plate was called, type Arceus for his team. This just makes the most sense. However, his trademark technique is a punch that literally surpasses time itself. That is a weird concept for even Pokemon, because Pokemon has something that's kind of like conceptual. That's like, okay, a punch so fast that it surpasses time it doesn't quite work with a Pokemon. Paradox Pokemon don't even qualify for that because, yeah, they technically don't exist, but they technically do. We're gonna really get the origin of Paradox Pokemon in the second DLC coming out. But for now, I went with something more that controls time. So because even though it's a legendary, Dialga is the Pokemon of time, so that makes the most sense. So Dialga was the second Mon that made it onto the team. It wasn't until we got to this point that I realized, okay, now we start to struggle a little bit. Because what else does he have going for him? Well, he's got his giant F-off muscle form. Okay, I can kind of work with that. He's got the, I believe it's Adamus form, where it compacts and condenses all his muscles down to that very thin lift form. That's tricky. He's an old guy. Great. He's a melee fighter. What else? He was around before the Big Bang. We already got Arceus here. Yeah, see, once we get past like the two big things, his punch that surpasses time and the fact that he is the strongest of the gods, and he's the god of gods, kind of, he's not a character that has a lot of nuance. But I think I made it work. So let's work first with him buffing up. I represented this by the swollest Pokemon I could find. That would be Buzzwole. Buzzwole is by and large the swollest of the swole. It's even in his damn name if you really look at his name. And it's a fighting type. So this works. Plus he comes from another dimension and the gods kind of come from another plane of existence. I felt that worked. I also threw, because he's an old man, a Drampa. Because it's a grandpa dragon and he is kind of the grandpa of the gods. So that worked out. I also, on the team, decided to put a Relicanth, because Relicanths are ancient Pokemon. They are Pokemon that remain unchanged for pretty much all their existence, much like the Coelacanth. And I kind of actually feel like that represents Zeus pretty well. However, the Adamus form, condensing your muscles down to that thin, super compact, full power form. Was there any Mon that even came close to that had an ability like that? I mean, we have bulk up, and we have shell armor, but no, nothing like really close to that. The closest I came to is this. There is one Mon who doesn't have an ability, but does have a technical form change that does technically work for this. Add on the fact that part of its typing is dark, it works towards a little bit more of his malevolent nature. And I went with Gigantamax Grimmsnarl. Now, the Gigantamax Grimmsnarl is huge, obviously. But when you look at Grimmsnarl, you look at the way it's designed, it is bulky, it is cumbersome looking, it is very troll-like because it's designed after a troll. But its Gigantamax form looks like a very thin, muscular, but thin, humanoid-looking figure. And so, if you were to say, make that proportionate to its actual form, this is the closest I can find to a Mon that will represent the Adamus form that Zeus has. Again, add on its dark nature, add on the fact too that Grimmsnarl is a dark fairy, is a good typing, and it's a pretty strong Pokemon in its own right. I used one in my playthrough. I think you've got one that can work here. I think you got one that can work here for that. But as always, how balanced is this team? Actually, it's pretty balanced, believe it or not, because you have 3 fighting types, admittedly, or 3 fighters. You have 2 fighting types because the Arceus version we'd have here is a fighting type. But you have 1 bug and a fighting type, which means the only weakness that Buzzwole is really having to deal with, it's some fire, but not the fire is kind of mitigated a little bit from the fighting a little bit. It's made a little bit more neutral. The Alga definitely is made neutral for its fire because of its dragon typing. But the only issue you have there is Fairy, which is also what Arceus shares, which is also technically what Drampa shares, which is, even though it's Fairy, it's still got Dark, which means Fairy type moves are going to hurt it. It's still what Grimmsnarl is going to have. Even though Steel resists Fairy, it's still Dragon. That's what Fairy... I went through all the typing here. Drampa and Dialga have a little bit of an issue with, and Grimmsnarl to boot, have a little bit of an issue with fighting, but all of their secondary typings just negate a super effectiveness and just make it neutral, so I don't count it as a weakness. Relicanth's the only one that has any real straight problems. It's going to get killed by grass types. Electric types are a problem. Fighting types are a problem. So it certainly has its issues, 100%. But there's only one typing that really runs through this team hard. And not even that hard, but hard enough. And that is fairies. Fairies are the only Pokemon type that 5 out of the 6 Pokemon on this team have some weakness to through their typings. So that would be the only true problem for this team. And even then, Grimmsnarl is already part fairy, so it's at least a little bit saved by that. And Dialga is part steel, which is like a direct counter to fairy. So it can at least take fairy better than Condition. Unfortunately, Drampa and Dialga also have the issue of not having any of the dragon moves affect a fairy type. Anyway, so that is the team I created for Zeus from Record of Ragnarok. What do you think of this team? Do you like this team? Or would you do something different? And if you would, what would you do? Let me know in the comments below. But until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you in a little bit for the What If. It's the last one I'm recording for the day. Later.